G'day everyone, I'm the man called Kemosabe, the man with the plan for the land down under, and this is my review of State of Kane, an 18-page digital comic funded, I believe, on the Kickstarter platform. It's a 21-page digital file, but by the time you remove front and back covers and the thanks page, you get 18 actual story pages. I went into this book cold. I couldn't remember anything from the campaign page. Who knows how long ago I backed it, and I figured that was fine. Every comic is someone's first comic. If your book relies on information only found on the campaign page, you might have bigger problems anyway. The book's by Tyler Downey, Andre Calderon, and Nikki Powers, but there's no credits page, so I'm guessing it's writer, artist, and colorist, or maybe writer, artist, and letterer, respectively. No credits page also means no editor was credited. I'm sure it'll be fine. It's not like a lack of an editor is the main gripe I've had with indie comics for the last 3 years. It's not like most of the issues I raise should or could be caught with an editor on deck. I'm sure it'll be fine. It's 18 pages. How much trouble can they get into anyway? The book starts with a very cinematic intro. Not that it's epic in scale, but rather it's very much what you'd expect to see in a movie. Are all movies cinema? That's a different discussion. The narrator narrates as the camera pans over the city skyline. It's the opening for, I'd estimate, roughly 2/3 of all street-level vigilante books. It's fine. It works. It's a convention of the genre. If you're not doing this, you better have something else amazing going on. The city pan narration is right up there with the crime in progress or mucking about to go bad opening. It's classic stuff. There's a cool thing the artist does where the panels start with the best of the city, shining skyscrapers and clock towers, and then as the camera pans down, the buildings get worse and dirtier and less high class and less well maintained until we're at the street level, watching over a drug dealer on his regular corner. Kane, the titular hero, waxes lyrical about how hard it is to get criminals to stop committing crimes. He's run this dealer off several times, but he keeps coming back. Kane says since his other efforts haven't worked, he's planning on trying something different tonight. That's a pretty cool costume. I like how the triangles make a K symbol on his chest. Going into this cold, I wasn't sure what the hook was. Not Batman in a hood isn't a great hook, and with a vigilante named Kane, you would think Mark of Kane would make a better title. But it's not called that, it's called State of Kane. And that made me question, is the title talking about his state of mind, or does he take over the whole city or the whole state, much like Batman did in No Man's Land? I mean, ideally, the book could be about both. Since Kane is talking about trying something different, I was guessing he was planning on killing this guy. That maybe his theoretical no-kill policy wasn't working, and he decided to Frank Castle it up a little bit. I was almost right. Kane drops to the street and starts arguing with the dealer. I mean, this guy doesn't even seem to be afraid of the vigilante. The dealer claims he's just trying to make a living and that Kane refuses to listen to him. It's a strange dynamic. The guy has been caught red-handed with hard drugs, but he's making the same argument that I think was made in Sweetback or Superfly. It's the only game the man's left us to play. There's a contingent of the Twitter crowd that insists Bruce Wayne, and furthermore Batman, doesn't do enough to combat crime at a societal level, that breaking the arms of corner drug dealers doesn't stop crime. I mean, they're right about that, but Bruce Wayne donates millions of dollars to programs designed to help the underprivileged and to try to stymie crime before it grows. Gotham is also canonically over about 6 different types of hellmouths and Indian burial grounds, so I think you can cut poor Bruce a break. For the rest of the vigilante crowd, though, there is something to it. How long can you fight slangers and crack dealers before you start to lose sight of the big picture? How much generational crime do you have to witness to realise hurting people, punishing them for breaking laws, doesn't really do anything to stop the crime itself? Maybe the creative team on State of Kane is planning on delving into these issues. I don't know yet. They argue for a page or two. The dealer all but quotes Sweetback. Maybe it's Superfly. But the point stands. He doesn't see any other way to get ahead. That's cynical thinking. That's generational helplessness. What good does crippling a man physically do when his mind is already crippled as well? Crippled with this sort of thinking. The two tussle. To be honest, the vigilante starts things off, but the dealer escalates things and pulls a gun. Time in comics is a funny thing. You can have a million years pass between two panels or less than a second happen over the course of a page. The dealer pulls a gun. Kane is right foot forward here, and then he kicks the gun out of the dealer's hand with his right foot. Unless he did some sort of little shuffle here, he's had 3 panels he could have been shot. Is this sequence depicting the dealer's hesitation to shoot, his hesitation to graduate from slanger to killer, or is it just a short period of time than it appears to us? After disarming the dealer, Kane breaks the dude's leg, kicks him in the face, and then smashes his face into an air conditioning unit on the roof of the building. Right now he's coming across more anti and less hero. Kane starts dropping the F-bomb and blaming the dealer for his own current status, aka borderline comatose. He says the dealer is lucky he didn't get himself killed. Well, Kane, if you didn't want the guy to risk death, maybe once you disarmed him, you could not break his leg, not kick him in the face, then not smash his skull into a giant metal box. Just an idea. Here I thought Kane was going to throw the dealer off the roof and finish the job, but he strings him up from that lamppost and says the police should find him. Apparently that was his big plan. I mean, unless he's caught with a distribution level amount of drugs on him, that dealer's probably just going to the hospital and undergoing physical therapy for months, if not years. The police have no evidence he committed a crime. If anything, he looks like a victim that was assaulted and crippled by this unhinged psychopath in a costume. Kane waits, but the police don't come. No one comes, he says. And with that image, the image of the dealer still hanging from the lamppost during the light of the next day, the book ends. So what is this comic? I still don't know. It's suffering from the same sort of stilted, decompressed storytelling I find so many books are burdened with these days. Another part of Netflix's legacy, I guess, or maybe we blame Quesada and Bendis. The book opened with 3 pages of inflection and narration. Can you imagine what Jack and Stan would have done with 3 whole pages? Kane argues the ills of society with the dealer for 4 pages. 4 pages are dedicated to crippling the dude and 5 more on blaming him for getting assaulted and then stringing him up. I mean, this isn't a comic book, this is an opening scene. A long one. I've said this a dozen times. What about this book is going to bring me back for issue 2? Competition is stronger now than ever before. Big names, big products, big characters. People buy to support a creator or because they like the character. I don't know the creators, so who is Kane? Why should I like him? He's more of a thug than a dealer. I'm sure the dealer is probably a moderate piece of shit, but did he deserve what he got? If I'm not supposed to like Kane, if that's the plan, then the hook, the thing that makes this book more than red-hooded Batman is the draw, it's the reason I come back for subsequent issues, then where the hell is it in this 18 pages? This is a disjointed, conflicting opening scene stretched out to 18 pages. I believe I read somewhere that a page equals a minute in a movie script. It looks like the same thing is happening here. I don't know anything about Kane. I don't see him as admirable, heroic, or capable. I have no investment in him, nor any reason to come back for another issue. If there is something else going on here, it's not being shown. The reader, the cold reader who hasn't looked at the Kickstarter page, has no idea what's going on and is unlikely to wait around for issue 2 and beyond to find out. The art in this book's pretty basic. Perspective and angles are all off, the action is stilted and at times even hard to follow. The letters are functional, but here we have the same sound effect and the same font and same format used once above the other. It's jarring, it's amateurish. The colours are bold but not sophisticated, they're flat and simple and they complement the art. I finally went and checked the Kickstarter page to see what was going on with this book, to work out where the creative team was headed. And from the campaign page it says, "The story follows a vigilante named Kane as he struggles to come to terms with the fact that what he's doing to fight crime isn't actually helping anyone but himself." The comic explores themes of racism, crime, victimhood, denial, and death. Speaking of racism, notice how neither the racial identity of the dealer or the main character has been revealed yet. If you were to look closely, and I did, the dealer is always either in shadow, a silhouette, or coloured a strange kind of nebulous purple colour. There's no way to say with any sort of surety what his ethnicity is from the visual alone, and I'm sure that's deliberate. Why it was deliberately done, we can only speculate. Again, from the campaign page, Kane is an idealistic man. He believes in good and evil, law and chaos, morality and immorality, and his mission is to stop anyone he deems immoral. Even though this is such an immense undertaking, Kane chooses to work alone mainly due to the fact that he's a very paranoid person. Kane is entirely off the grid. He has no home, no money, no friends and no family. Kane is Kane and nobody else. He talks to nobody apart from criminals because he's afraid they might somehow find out about what he's hiding. Kane is a man so ignorant of how people actually work, he has to learn the hard way that they're just like him. So I was right about what this book is supposed to be. I usually am. This idea that fighting crime doesn't really work is a story that probably should be told, just not with Batman. This book is an 18-page opening scene for a bigger idea, one that's only briefly touched on in this issue. The story is being told in a purely linear fashion, with no other elements being incorporated to give us context or background, and it leaves us with a strange sort of emptiness to the issue. I can see how the team is heading towards the sort of story the campaign promises, and I see why the blurb convinced me to spend $5 redos to buy a digital copy. I find the idea for this type of character compelling. It hasn't been done often. But if I need to refresh my memory on the Kickstarter page before I start reading a comic to know what's going on, to understand your character's motivations, there's some significant problems with your book. Unfortunately, I don't think there's enough to get people back for the next installment. We got more of the loner vigilante trope from one panel of Rorschach eating cold beans from a tin in Watchmen than we did in all 18 pages here. If you want to sell a comic, you need a hell of a character. If you aren't showcasing your character to sell your book, then your hook, your actual story, needs to be compelling. I believe this character design with this hook could result in a compelling comic. It just hasn't.